when you have platforms like this, I've heard you talk on the Lofter podcast about like CSAM, which is like child sexual abuse material, and how there's really interesting technology coming out that allows people to filter this type of stuff. So like fingerprints, so that you can check it against like images and videos that already are on the platform without like a human moderator. So have you done any research in that type of field? And we really like technical details. So like what type of people or groups are working on that type of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're gonna talk about this since you asked, but I just wanted to let people know this is a very difficult subject that we're going to talk about, and so this might not be something you want to pay attention to if you have a history yourself of abuse in the family, right? But you're right. The sexual abuse of children is the absolute worst thing that happens every day on the internet. We talk about all these other things. We talk about Russian ads, and we talk about disinformation and such. And the child abuse gets one thousandth of the attention, but it's in the end much more impactful. And the kids who are impacted by this, they carry it around for their entire lives. So there's a bunch of different ways that children can get hurt online. You're talking about one, which is the trading of CSAM. So child sexual abuse material is the term of art we use in the industry for what other people kind of loosely call child pornography. We don't use the term pornography because the people did not choose to be part of it. There's a number of reasons why experts and psychologists say to not use that term. So we use the term CSAM. And that includes both photos and video. And the largest growing population of this content is actually in the video. It's not still photos. This is a problem that's been in existence for a long period of time, well before the internet. But the internet obviously makes it way easier for people to trade this content than mailing photos back and forth, mailing films and stuff like that. So about 15 years ago, Microsoft invented a technology with a man named Hani Farid, who's now professor at Berkeley, called PhotoDNA, which is a perceptual hash. So it's a mathematical fingerprint that represents the photo. It's effectively, if you want to get technical, is you convert the photo into a grayscale image and then you build a vector. I forget how many degrees, but it's like 200 something dimension vector with that represents different luminance values from breaking up that photo. And then the vector is what you share. So it's a fingerprint of a photo that you can use to identify other photos as being related without holding the photo itself. And that's one of the core things about CSAM is it is illegal to possess it. There's only one organization in the United States that is legally allowed to possess this content. It's called the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. It was specifically written into a law by Congress that they can collect and hold this stuff for study. But if you're a company and you find it, you can't hold on to it. What you can do is you create a fingerprint of it, and then that fingerprint can be shared with other companies and via NCMEC that other people find it. And so that is a technology that was invented about 15 years ago. It has become the standard. It isn't applied totally regularly. If you're interested in this area, there was a very good series of articles in the New York Times last year by Gabriel Dance, I believe, and Michael Keller are the journalists. And Gabriel was just on the Sam Harris podcast, which is a really popular podcast talking about this. And one of the things they talk about is that there's like 16 million reports to NCMEC, and about 90% of them come just from Facebook. And it's because Facebook is the most aggressive in scanning. And one of the things they talk about is that a number of companies have made difficult privacy safety trade-offs of in what situation you're going to scan. So for example, if you're on Dropbox and you have a bunch of photos, Dropbox will not scan that for CSAM unless you're intentionally sharing it with other people, right? And so anyway, this is like a really complicated area. A lot of people are working on it. Facebook's released a couple more open source tools. PhotoDNA is very tightly controlled. You can only get access to it with a very specific license from Microsoft. But there are a variety of other tools that you can use to detect this stuff. But this, like the technology side is not as hard as the actual policy side, because effectively, if you want to combat this kind of abuse, and this is true for all kinds of abuse, but it's really specifically harmful here, is you have to make this trade-off between the privacy of your users and how aggressively you're going to enforce your rules. And so on the abuse of children, people have considered it so extreme that they will violate the privacy of their users in a way that they won't in other circumstances. But that is a controversial thing. And there's actually a number of legal appeals of people who've been convicted of saying that the companies have actually gone too far. And so it is a moving area. The other area where this gets really big is because of end-to-end encryption, right? So you guys regularly use products that are end-to-end encrypted. If you use iMessage, if you use WhatsApp, if you use Signal, that is content that can't be scanned, right? Because it passes through the servers. If you send a photo on WhatsApp, it passes through WhatsApp servers encrypted. It cannot be scanned. And so there are people who are arguing about that from a policy perspective, and the current Attorney General of the United States would like to make end-to-end encryption illegal because of this reason. There's a number of folks, including some folks on our team, who are looking at alternatives are there ways that we can allow end-to-end encryption and then scan the photos in a way that leaks a little bit of information but doesn't violate all of the security benefits of end-to-end encryption? And so this will be a project where the politicians will continue to fight, and technologists are looking for some kind of way to have our cake and eat it too, to give people privacy while also preventing what is the worst thing that happens every day on the internet.